Tanzania is known as one of the major biodiversity nations in the world, along with Brazil, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Indonesia. Tanzania is home to several species of plants and animals. We have over 10,000 species of plants. We have 340 mammals. We have over 1,100 species of birds. And Tanzania is home to 20% of large mammals in Africa. The history of the college dates back to 1961, September, when IUCN and the Technical Commission for Cooperation in Africa organized an international symposium on wildlife conservation in Arusha, Tanzania, to deliberate on the future of wildlife conservation after independence. There was a concern among the international community that African independence was threatening the nature conservation project.
The establishment of the college is really linked to the development or independence of African countries. Now, by then, the people who were managing wildlife were expatriates. So the question came, are these people going to be employees of the new government? Definitely not. So few wardens were then, because they were all known as wardens. You have got at Mweka the Major Kilnock building. That was one of the architects of the idea. They talked with the other countries. Malawi by then was Nyasaland. The current Zambia was in northern Rhodesia, Kenya, Uganda. Then they made some sort of a discussion that what is going to happen. That we should look at the possibilities of establishing a college so they would take over the new nations. So that's how it started. Now, where was that college to be established? There were no funds and there were no funding. So Kenya offered a piece of area which was a mining site, but was a bit in the remote part of the Kenya. Actually, it's between Taveta. We are going up a bit in the interior. There was no electricity. There was no water. It was really the typical dry land. In Tanzania, I said, okay, we have got an abandoned German property. That is the college where that big structure rests. So they came, looked at it. It was feasible. I said, okay. And Tanzania said, by then Tanganyika said, okay, we take it. So that's how it came into being, 1963.
So it was immediately after independence, and we are fortunate to have had Mwalimu Nyerere at the time, who had the foresight to see and recognize the importance of conservation. Now we see, at that time, we were not talking about biodiversity. The biodiversity concept came late in the 80s and 90s. But at that time, we were merely protecting resources, maybe for leisure and hunting. The ideas of connectivity with life were not very much developed at the time. So when the idea of establishing, with that foresight of managing African wildlife, and Mwalimu has that tremendous foresight, not only for Tanzania, he saw wildlife management as an issue for Africa. That's how CAUM was established. It wasn't established for Tanzania, it was established for the African conservation. fortunate. From day one, it started by enrolling students from African countries. When the college was started, it did not enroll students directly from school. It enrolled in-service students. So it was a kind of an in-service training kind of student. Although you came to study for a longer course, like 2-3 years, it was all in service. Students came from work to study. In the mode of training delivery that I brought to the college much early on was the introduction of demand-driven, almost competence-based training. And I think, talking about competence-based, people actually do not know this, but we were the first to introduce it in the country. It was, at the time, even NACTE was being established, but we were the only college that was talking about competence-based and demand-driven training. That was a major shift to focus on what the industry needs and be able to give the kind of training that would be beneficial at the workplace. It would provide the skills that are required at the workplace. That was revolutionary because before that, people were just using the traditional way of lecturers bringing in what they had learned, and that is what would be taught. So the introduction of demand-driven training or competence-based even changed the name of courses for the first time.
This is something which is very unique for Mweka, competence. The emphasis, even at that time, was doing fieldwork, getting that exposure, traveling out, camping out, seeing animals, doing things with your hands, interacting with rangers out in the field. Now that was the exposure which we enjoyed at that time. I remember very well was when we did what used to be called solo expedition. You know, they'll take you out, drop you at a point, give you a bearing, and they'll pick you after 3 days after a certain distance, which we did it in the, going towards Rombo. That was a real challenge. Being alone, it was real solo, and we learned how versatile we as humans are. It was a good lesson. It was a challenge, but it prepared me for the real life in wildlife. Well, the College of African Wildlife Management has done a lot. I cannot think of how could we have managed wildlife without that college in Africa. By then, it was the only wildlife training college in all English-speaking African countries. And after we finished, of course, as students, we used to communicate as colleagues. They were everywhere. That's the contribution. It provided the best education to manage and to conserve wildlife in the whole of Africa. If you look at Tanzania, all the senior managers, conservation officers, they all went through Mweka. The success which we can account to wildlife conservation in this country, really Mweka played a great and significant role in the training part of it.
Yeah, during the establishment of the college at the beginning of the 60s, and African countries were just emerging as independent countries, they obviously needed a lot of support. So support for the college started right from its establishment. I believe organizations like WWF, African Wildlife Foundation, were the organizations that came early on during the establishment, in the USAID, to support the college. And then And many more others joined, either supporting it directly or supporting the college through scholarships given to different African countries.
African Wildlife Foundation, by that time, 1962, was called in African Wildlife Leadership Foundation. And one of the reasons of why African Wildlife Leadership Foundation started Mweka College is to strengthen the African institution to have the manpower who will come to manage our wildlife resources. So this college was not targeted only for Tanzania, but across Africa.
The college currently is recognized by Southern Africa Development Community and East Africa Community as a center of excellence in training wildlife professionals. Mweka training is competence-based compared to other institutions. Competence-based. What is being done in classroom, it has to be practiced in the field. And for that matter, our students, I would say that they are the best because they can easily secure when they go for interviews. Actually, they are doing very well. We go to interviews with other institutions. We have a number of institutions, universities which are offering programs in wildlife. But when they go to interview, over 60% of Mweka graduates actually they will emerge the winners in these interviews. For that matter, I would say that the Mweka students are employable.
Why did I choose to study here in the College of African Wildlife Management, Mweka? It's because they offer the different courses, hospitality, animal systematic, botany. So within those courses, I get an opportunity of learn different kind of birds, for instance, and plants. So that is one among the reasons I chose to come and study here.
I was looking for a nurse program which was offered program in wildlife, and I saw that Mweka was among the best college in Africa. We have some intensive weeks of course, and after doing a course, we used to go to the safari in a famous park in Tanzania. We used to go in Serengeti National Park, in Ngorongoro Conservation Area Authority, and in Tarangire National Park, in order to try to combine the theory and the practice. And for me, it was a good experience for me to learn this course because it's where I saw the coexistence of animals and humanity, which is quite different into my country, where almost of animals have already run away from communities because of the pressure, human pressure. And another reason, which is my experience to be here, it's the application of technology in conservation. I learned some software like smart software. I learned how to use camera trap in conservation of biodiversity, which is not offered by other program in Africa.
The college is not only mandated to train, but in order to do well in training, we do research. Research is meant to enhance our training, but also to train our students who can work in research institutions, but we also do this in order to provide solutions for challenges facing management of wildlife in Tanzania and elsewhere. And from this research, our lecturers are able to publish in international recognized journals but also they have come up with innovations and new discoveries. For instance, recently, one of our lecturers has actually discovered a new species of bee in Arusha National Park, a bee known as Lasioglossum berrapta. But also, one of our lecturers has come up with a new discovery in Zero Forest in western Tanzania, a species of cat known as Caracal aurata. Originally, it was believed that this cat is found in Uganda, Congo, and Central Africa. But recently, we have discovered that Tanzania has this new cat known as African golden cat. And one of our lecturers also has come up with medicinal plants which are useful in treating humans, livestock, and even plants, herbicides. The college started with 25 students, as I said, but also we had only 2 programs, certificate and diploma in wildlife management. Of recent, we have degree programs, bachelor degree programs, but we have master's programs. But we have also reviewed our curriculum, because curriculum is something which needs to be responsive and dynamic, because wildlife sector in a changing world is also changing. We have a lot of changes which are happening. Now with these dynamics, we need to develop a curriculum which is more dynamic and responsive to these changes. Other than that, we are thinking of also collaborating with other institutions globally, collaborating training and research in order to make sure that we exchange our experience and resources we have in order to move forward. We are also trying to build the capacity of our staff, our lecturers, to make sure that they are able to cope with changes, they are able to train our students and do research and come up with programs which are competitive and make Mweka remain relevant. We are intending to make sure that we develop our study areas in terms of infrastructure, and it is my wish that in 60 years or 20 years to come, we have permanent campuses in the other areas. So we are not only intending to remain here, but we are developing more campuses and ensure that our students get what we are mandated to do.